They called it the Flying Fortress, a massive four-engine bomber bristling with guns, armor, and confidence. For America, it was the weapon that would crush Nazi Germany from the sky. But for the men inside, it was something else entirely. During World War II, only 1 in 4 B-17 crews survived their missions. The rest were burned alive, torn apart by flak, shot down by German fighters, or condemned to years of captivity in prison camps. For those who flew in the Flying Fortress, survival was never guaranteed. This is the deadly reality of life aboard the B-17. When the Boeing B-17 was unveiled, it was sold to the public as invincible. With 13 heavy machine guns, armor plating, and the strength to take massive punishment, it earned the nickname Flying Fortress. Propaganda films showed crews smiling, aircraft shrugging off damage, and commanders praising its toughness. To many young recruits, it looked like a ticket to glory. But the truth revealed itself the first time they flew over Europe. A standard mission meant flying deep into enemy territory, often for 8 to 10 hours, in daylight, in tight formations of hundreds of bombers. They climbed above 25,000 feet, where the air was thin, freezing, and oxygen masks were mandatory. German defenses were waiting. Luftwaffe fighters attacked in coordinated waves. Messerschmitt, Bf-109s, and Focke-Wulf 190s, diving straight into the formations, spraying cannon shells and machine gun fire. And then came the flak. Thousands of anti-aircraft guns lined the coasts and cities. Black clouds of steel filled the sky, bursting with deadly shrapnel. Crews described it as flying through a storm of knives. The results were catastrophic. In 1943, the 8th Air Force launched raids on heavily defended targets like Hamburg, Regensburg, and Schweinfurt. Entire groups of bombers were wiped out in a single day. On the second raid against Schweinfurt, out of 291 B-17s sent, 60 were shot down. Hundreds of airmen died or were captured. The survivors limped home in shredded machines, some missing engines, others missing entire sections of their fuselage. For a 10-man crew, the odds were brutal. On average, only 1 in 4 crews lived to complete their 25-mission tour. The rest perished in the skies over Europe. Inside the B-17, life was miserable even before the fighting began. At high altitude, temperatures dropped to 40 degrees below zero. Heated suits often failed, leaving gunners with frostbitten hands and feet. Oxygen masks froze solid. The noise was deafening. 4 engines roared non-stop for hours. Intercoms barely worked, and crews often shouted just to be heard. The positions themselves were nightmares. The ball turret gunner curled in a tiny glass bubble under the plane, completely exposed. The tail gunner isolated at the very back, watching death come straight at him. One flak burst in the wrong place, and they were gone. Before they ever saw combat, B-17 crews went through intense training. Young men, many barely out of high school, were taught to navigate, to shoot, to bomb, and to survive at 25,000 feet. They learned to use oxygen masks, to operate heated suits, to recognize German aircraft silhouettes in a split second. Training films assured them they were safe inside the fortress. But deep down, they knew the odds. Some recalled instructors saying, "Look around at your crew. By the end of the war, most of you won't be here." Life on the bases in England was cold, muddy, and tense. Crews slept in drafty Nissen huts, warmed by small coal stoves. On mission days, they woke before dawn, drank bitter coffee, and waited for the dreaded briefing. A map revealed the target, and with it, the danger. Some men admitted their stomachs sank the moment the red string stretched across the map toward Berlin or Schweinfurt. One of the darkest days came on October 14, 1943, the second raid on Schweinfurt. Out of 291 bombers, 60 never returned. It became known as Black Thursday. Survivors described seeing the sky filled with burning planes, engines spiraling down, parachutes opening, and many of those parachutes burning before they touched the ground. Another infamous mission was the Regensburg-Schweinfurt shuttle raid. Crews had to bomb Regensburg, then fly all the way to North Africa. Out of 376 aircraft, 60 were lost. Men who survived said the journey felt endless, every hour waiting for the next attack. The constant danger broke many men. Some froze during missions, unable to fire their guns. Others were so shaken that they refused to fly again, branded with the cruel label, lack of moral fiber. Yet most went back, day after day. They wrote letters home, hiding the truth from families. "We're fine, don't worry," one gunner wrote, the same day his best friend's fortress exploded beside him. Back in America, newspapers and newsreels showed the flying fortress as unstoppable. Families saw smiling crews waving before takeoff. They didn't see the wrecks that limped back with dead men frozen at their guns. They didn't hear the screams on the intercoms or smell the smoke inside the fuselage. For the public, the B-17 was a symbol of power. For the men inside, it was survival against impossible odds. And yet, in the midst of this horror, there were countless acts of bravery. Crews held formation even as their planes burned. Pilots crash-landed shattered fortresses to save their men. Gunners kept firing until the very end. Some planes returned with wings shredded, engines dead, fuselage riddled with holes, and still managed to bring their crews home. These stories became legends, symbols of the resilience of the men and the machine. By the end of the war, over 4,700 B-17s had been lost in combat. Tens of thousands of airmen never came home. Memorials today stand across Europe and America, marking the sacrifice of those who climbed into the fortress, knowing the odds were against them. For the B-17 crews, survival was the exception, not the rule. 1 in 4 made it back. The rest remained forever in the skies above Europe. Decades after the war, the memories never faded. Survivors spoke of the noise of engines, the smell of smoke, the sight of burning planes. Many admitted they never truly left the skies over Europe. Nightmares haunted them. Silence before sleep brought back the screams of comrades. But when asked if it was worth it, most said the same words: "We did what we had to do, for each other and for the world." For the men of the Flying Fortress, survival was a matter of chance, but courage was a choice, and they chose it every single day. 1 in 4 survived. Imagine climbing aboard, knowing those odds. Would you have flown? Tell me what you think in the comments. If you want to discover more untold stories from World War II, don't forget to subscribe. There are many more deadly truths to uncover.